Hey everybody, it's Charlie. This is going to be my new Spider-Man 3 Marvel video. There were a couple websites that were reporting an actual title for Spider-Man 3, so we'll break it down. We also have an official casting description for the main villain that reads exactly like a major Sinister 6 character, and there's a bunch of updates for Venom 2, the Morbius movie, and how Marvel and Sony are planning on crossing Tom Holland's Spider-Man over with the Venom movies in the Sony-verse in future movies. So if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. We're doing a giveaway right now for the new Marvel Avengers game. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and let me know how you want them to cross Spider-Man over with Venom in the movies. So just starting with the big stuff first, number 5, the new title. So recently on a couple of major websites, fans noticed that an actual title for Spider-Man 3 had been listed instead of the standard untitled Spider-Man movie sequel. The way it leaked out was very similar to the way that the title for Avengers Endgame leaked out last year, if you guys remember. Before Marvel officially revealed the title, the cinematographer of the movie updated his website with his credits to include Avengers Endgame, but it was before Marvel had announced Avengers 4 was called Avengers Endgame. So post all your Iron Man Avengers memes. He thought we wouldn't notice, but we did. That was months before the Endgame title reveal. So this past week, a bunch of users noticed that both Esquire and Maxim, two major brands, not just small blog websites, are now reporting the title of Spider-Man 3 is Spider-Man Homesick. So I guess RIP copywriter, who probably wasn't supposed to leak that, press F in the chat, his job died so that we could see this out in the wild. Tom Holland could not be reached for comment. I'm mostly surprised that the news didn't come from him, since they kind of use him to leak all this information. There was also news from the set of Spider-Man 3. Right now they're building the sets for the actual movie, getting ready to film later this year after Tom Holland finishes filming the Uncharted movie. That's right, there is an Uncharted Nathan Drake movie. And reportedly on set, the crew is referring to Spider-Man 3 as Spider-Man Homesick, seemingly confirming what these websites are saying. Still not confirmed by Marvel officially, so you have to take it with a grain of salt, but if it's coming from a couple of different places, it sounds a little more legit. Homesick as a title makes sense just because of where they left things in the Spider-Man Far From Home post-credit scene. He is now #1 most wanted on everyone's hit list. Both the villains and the heroes are after him. Every law enforcement agency on the planet. So home is the last place that he could go. That's exactly where they're going to look for him. There were a lot of Spider-Man homeless memes earlier, but I guess that title is just too depressing. I'm actually kind of glad that it's not Spider-Man Home Run. That was one of my early favorites, but the whole reason why you would call a Spider-Man movie Home Run would be to make that baseball metaphor, and in baseball, a home run is only earned after you round 4 bases. Sony has already confirmed that they have plans to make Spider-Man 4 with Tom Holland and Marvel, so they're still free to use Home Run as the title of Spider-Man 4. And I'll talk more about Sinister 6 in a second too, because number 4, apparently the new casting breakdown that's being reported for the main villain definitely sounds like a Sinister 6 team member. The casting description just reads that Marvel Studios is looking for a Joel Kinnaman type for an untitled Spider-Man sequel, which is effectively Spider-Man 3. Now, which Sinister 6 villain, major villain, do you think that Joel Kinnaman could be but Kraven the Hunter? He doesn't really come off as a Dr. Octopus, even though I would love to see a new MCU version of Dr. Octopus. But just to be clear, just because the casting description says a Joel Kinnaman type doesn't mean that they're actually trying to cast Joel Kinnaman himself, they just want someone with his vibe. Talking about super deep Spider-Man cuts, Joe Manganiello said a while ago that it would be his dream to come back into the Spider-Man movies and play Kraven.
Well, so as a comic book reader, one of my favorite comic book stories of all time that's so dark and twisted and unique is Kraven's Last Hunt.
Oh yeah,
that one is, it's maddening, it's insane, and what an amazing ending and great turn. So I mean that's one of those that I would be. They're gonna have to make that. It's too good of a story not to tell.
So Kraven's apparently gonna get a solo movie, but in the same vein that Venom is, where it's not in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Yeah. They still want a Marvel Cinematic Universe Kraven.
Well, you have to have him cross over at some point because Kraven's Last Hunt is too good a piece of material to back. It's like, Wolverine, the Frank Miller Japanese Wolverine. Like you can't not tell that story. Mm-hmm. You have to tell
Is that a role you would go for if given the opportunity, for sure?
What, Kraven?
Yeah.
You kidding me? That would be like a dream role.
The really cool thing about him is that if you don't remember, he actually played Flash Thompson in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies. And from what we've seen in the Morbius trailer already, Sony and Marvel are mixing and matching a lot of Easter eggs from different eras in Spider-Man movies, so it'd be a really cool Easter egg for him to come back, but that doesn't necessarily confirm anything. But more to Kraven in the MCU just in general. Last year during the Spider-Man Far From Home press tour, the director, John Watts, said that if he got the chance to come back for Spider-Man 3, he would want to use Kraven the Hunter as one of the next big villains, and they confirmed that he was coming back a little while ago. So I would say odds are pretty good that Kraven will be one of, if not the main villain of Spider-Man 3. Sony is also still developing a Kraven solo movie as part of their Venom spin-off movies, just like Morbius. No idea when that movie would happen, but if Sony wants Kraven and Marvel wants Kraven, we're probably going to see him show up pretty soon. But even more Sinister 6, number 3, Michael Mando, who plays the Scorpion, teased a little while ago that he'd be coming back into the Spider-Man movies soon. He didn't say which movie he'd be coming back for, or if he'd be coming back for multiple cameos or just one movie, but getting into bigger Sinister 6 setup and teasers, we almost have a full Sinister 6 team in the MCU right now if you include Kraven.
These villains that we now have in our universe happen to be characters that are in the Sinister Six. There may be something that happens with that.
No matter where he goes, the world is going to be different for him.
Here's the real blockbuster. Brace yourselves, you might want to sit down.
Spider-Man's name is Peter Parker.
What the f?
No more hiding. Yeah, no more hiding.
And if you're thinking about crossing things over with the Venomverse, why would the Vulture, major Sinister 6 character, show up in his white prison uniform from the Spider-Man Homecoming post-credit scene if Sony weren't trying to imply that Venom and the other Sony Spider-Verse characters would also be involved in future Sinister 6 movies? We've already known about Tom Holland's Spider-Man crossing over with Tom Hardy's Venom for a while now. It's just a question of when that's going to happen. Right now, it's been reported that Sony wants Tom Holland to have a small cameo scene in Venom 2. No word on Venom possibly cameoing during Spider-Man 3. But it seems like Spider-Man 3 will just be similar to Spider-Man Homecoming and Spider-Man Far From Home in that they're really just going to be one major Sinister 6 villain and a couple smaller villains in the background. And from what we've seen from Venom 2 so far, Let There Be Carnage, they're mostly just focusing on Cletus Cassidy getting the Carnage symbiote and fighting Venom, without doing any really huge Spider-Man Tom Holland stuff till maybe potentially a post-credit scene. And since Sony announced they're doing Spider-Man 4 eventually with Marvel again, renewing that sharing deal one more time, and Kevin Feige said that he didn't have any big plans to be doing a Venom Spider-Man movie in the MCU, it sounds like the Venom Spider-Man crossover will be a pure Sony movie. So number 2, early prediction, Spider-Man 4 winds up being Spider-Man Home Run, and they do it as their Spider-Man vs. the Sinister 6 movie, and then Spider-Man vs. Venom is a totally separate movie that Sony does on their own with Tom Holland. There were reports a while ago about Tom Holland supposedly signing another new contract for even more Marvel and Spider-Man movies that would cover the bigger crossovers and bigger future Avengers movies like Avengers 5 and then Avengers Secret Wars even further down the road. So it sounds like he's going for a Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man and Hugh Jackman Wolverine situation where he just keeps playing Spider-Man for a long time. So for everyone that wanted an adult Spider-Man who was a little more hardcore, Tom Holland will become that Spider-Man eventually. He'll literally just age up through the MCU movies until he's middle-aged Spider-Man being senpai to the younger, newer Avengers characters. Number 1, the only other major cameos that we know about right now in all the upcoming Spider-Man, Spider-Verse, and Venom movies is J. Jonah Jameson, and there are rumors of Oscorp and Norman Osborn stuff happening soon at Sony. There was a report that during the Morbius movie, Tyrese's character wields this special gauntlet weapon that he uses to fight Morbius with, and supposedly the tech is made by Oscorp, and that's our first major Easter egg for a new version of Norman Osborn Green Goblin. J.K. Simmons did say that he'd already filmed his next JJ cameo scene and that he had more cameos left on his contract. So right now my early prediction for that is that he'll just show up in every single new Spider-Man related movie in small scenes that just help weave everything together with continuity between Spider-Man Far From Home, Morbius, Venom 2, and then Spider-Man 3. Some of the Morbius Daily Bugle Easter eggs seem like they're more Tobey Maguire Easter eggs, so it's hard to say if they're going for a multiverse explainer or if they're just trying to mislead us. But let me know in the comments, if the title of Spider-Man 3 really does wind up being Homesick, what do you want the title of Spider-Man 4 to be? While you wait for everything, click here for my new Marvel Avengers review, and click here for my new Marvel Shang-Chi movie teaser and Iron Man Easter eggs. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, I'll see you guys tonight.